All right, welcome into Tigers Radio Podcast. Again, the name, episode 400. The name is, technically this has been Tigers SRD until just a few episodes ago, but because we've been picked up by Fanside, we decided to go with a little simpler title, Tigers Radio Pod. I'm Rogelio Castillo. Beside me is Chris Brown and Uper. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartMedia, and Stitcher and Google Play. Tonight, we have our special guests from South Side Sox. And Janice, I know you're NBC Sports too, correct?
That's right.
All right. And Chrystal, you're writing anywhere else, by the way?
Yeah, I actually also write for Overtime Heroics on their White Sox beat.
All right, awesome. So we're going to be talking the White Sox, Tigers, who Chicago's coming to town on Monday. Talk a little bit about the Brewers, who the Tigers swept the series, the 2-game series, and it was interesting to see a 10-inning game with no runs, but we'll get to plenty of that. But before we move on and talk all this baseball, I wanted to give a nod of respect to Norm Mcdonald, who passed away of cancer at the age of 61 a few days ago, who he didn't let anybody know what was going on. And there's so many Norm Mcdonald clips that Chris and I have discussed. And Uber, are you a big Norm Mcdonald fan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A lot of fun. Back in the 90s when he was hosting the news on SNL, it was just that deadpan delivery was great.
Yeah, he did this. One of my favorite bits he did was this, and I was going to play the SNL monologue one, but the one I'll play a quicker one, but this was something that I think anybody who appreciates music and get the obscure reference here, and let me just pull this up, but it was the way he did I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Dirty Work. That's a underrated movie, but this bit right here is one of my favorites of all time.
Better than Ezra. And at number 2, and in music news, number 1 on the college charts this summer was Better Than Ezra. And at number 2, Ezra.
So anybody gets the King of New Orleans reference or Better Than Ezra reference, congratulations. That was one of my favorite bits of many. So, but yeah, let's move on. And let's move on. Chris, ask our first time guest this question that goes back from Bad Hop, so like 2016. But we always ask our first time guests this question, and it's one of my favorites. Take it away, Chris.
Hi, Crystal. Nice to meet you. We'd like to know about our guests' earliest baseball memories. So if you have one that sticks out to you, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, of course. So my family is a big sports family, but it's primarily the women that are into sports and know everything. So I have a really big family, and one of my aunts was just really, really into baseball. And I grew up in Indianapolis, so we got WGN, or we could watch Reds games and occasionally some Tigers games, but I mostly had to watch the Cubs because that's all we got. So she was a big Cubs fan, and she kind of got me into just watching baseball constantly. And it's actually, my mom wrote in my baby book, Chrystal really loves watching baseball with Aunt Jill, and her favorite song is the 7th Inning Stretch. And apparently that was just, like, I would either sing the 7th Inning Stretch or the Banana song from Beetlejuice. Like, those were my two things. So I just remember, and I mean, it was so fun. I just remember sitting there with my aunt and learning baseball from the time I could start talking. And it just stuck with me ever since. So baseball's always been my identity. And I'm so thankful for my aunt for introducing me, even if it was the Cubs as my first introduction to the sport.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Uper. You going to say something? Sorry.
No, not at all. I just thought that was a great story.
Yeah, did you end up going to a lot of Indians games too? Because I know that's a big thing down there in Indianapolis. It's a beautiful ballpark, by the way.
Yeah, and we still go all the time. I take my kids now. They love it. They have a knothole club where it's like $20 and you basically get season tickets for kids. You just have to pay, for the adults or whatever. And like they have these kids eat free Monday thing, and you can run the bases on Sundays. So yeah, we've always been big on the Indians down here, and so it kind of translated. And I don't necessarily care about the Pirates either way, but like I just root for them now because we call them, the little baby Indians. That's what we always referred to them as. So that's how I grew to love Andrew McCutchen so much. I just kind of started watching all of these guys from high school on. So now they're all big and I love them.
No, I have a 7-year-old, and you can't beat minor league baseball for the deal. I mean, what do we pay, Raj? $15 for seats right behind home plate.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's like a tenth, if not less than of the price for a Major League Baseball game, and the baseball's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some angry 30-year-olds there playing, but
We would also try to go when like the Knights had anybody that were rehabbing from Chicago, and like my kids, before people got called up, like they've seen Lucas Giolito, they've seen Adam Engel, they've seen I think they even saw we saw Aloy, we saw Michael Kopech. Like they've seen all of these players back when they were either in the minors or rehabbing in the minors. So that was really cool that they've been able to kind of go down and hang out by the dugout and get a baseball signed or something. So yeah, minors are awesome. I will gladly support them.
nice.
Yeah, speaking of which, Toledo looks like they're about to clinch the division for the first time since I want to say almost 10 years. Something like that along the lines, Chris.
It sounds about right. That's one thing I don't do is keep track of when they win divisions and stuff and go to the playoffs. I like I follow mostly for the prospects, but yeah, it's definitely cool. They've got a good team this year.
It's a stacked veteran team. It's the Larry Parrish. I think that was Larry Parrish era. But I want to ask both of you ladies the question that kind of what's going on with what is the hostility with the Angels? I mean, what like, people throwing at Ohtani and what is going on over there? I have to, just because we've been so centrally focused on the Tigers recently, and I haven't had a chance to check in with Chicago in a while, but Tony La Russa has to make a comment to clear up that it wasn't intentional. I mean, what I got to know.
I think hostility is a little bit of a reach. Well, first of all, I guess I should preface by saying I did not watch the game today, and probably for my own mental health. But yeah, I don't understand why they would throw at Ohtani. I mean, they struck him out in the previous game twice. So just anecdotally, just from recollection, Ohtani didn't really do all that well this series. I don't recall him like doing anything to anger the White Sox. So yeah, even though I try to avoid anything Tony La Russa says, again, for my own mental health, I'm going to have to take his side here. I don't think it was intentional. But Chrystal, you may have some further insight to add to this.
I went back and I looked at it again, and I don't think it was intentional. Like Mike Wright, the first two pitches he threw, they were kind of down, and this just kind of grazed his calf. But as much as I don't think it was an intentional hit, there were like 3 players this series on the White Sox that got hit. Like Luis Robert took it to the helmet and just, like knocked him down, and Jose Abreu keeps getting hit. And so I hate that idea of intentional hitting for anybody. I think it's just childish, but I don't know. I don't think it was. I think it was just a bad pitch.
I just think optically, it probably didn't look very well. Jose Abreu, I don't know if he leads the league in hit by pitches, but he's just hit a lot. He does. He does.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That does not surprise me. He's always been like that, though. He was hit plenty last season as well. So I mean, I do understand that the optics of it don't look very good. But again, yeah, I'm going to have to say that I strongly doubt that that hit by pitch was intentional to Ohtani.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I mean, you look at the month of September, it's 6-6 for the White Sox. So I guess that's where the mental frustration is coming in for both of you, because this is a team that should be right now. You look at San Francisco, who just clinched, and right now it just seems like even out west, or even like Toronto right now, Toronto's been on a roll, and Chicago should just be at this point, in your opinion, just kind of crushing it, pretty much, right?
Yeah, they should have clinched by now.
Yeah, one would think that they probably should have clinched by now. It's a pretty strong team, right? Pretty strong lineup, rotation when they're healthy is pretty fantastic too. But there's been plenty of, I think we're recognizing all these vulnerabilities in September now. And plenty of people will bring up the fact, oh, well, in 2005, the White Sox did lose a long stretch of games in September where Cleveland actually almost caught up, basically collectively rising the blood pressures of White Sox fans everywhere. But I don't know. From a very myopic standpoint, losing games still isn't very fun, even though I know that this team is heading to the postseason. They're not very enjoyable games to watch. So I mentioned earlier that I did not watch today's game. And I think that was definitely for my own good. But I mean, as much as I love this team, they certainly do infuriate me often. I feel as if it's totally normal, though. I feel as if it's totally normal to just be upset, to not have fun, because baseball is supposed to be fun. And when you're not having fun, it's not enjoyable. I mean, I might be preaching to the choir here. I don't know. Bad baseball is just not fun to watch. It's no.
So, what is the sense in Chicago? Both of your opinions and maybe what you've been hearing. The team hasn't really played a meaningful game in months because they've had this division wrapped up. I mean, it was pretty much a fait accompli. They're going to win. Are they going to be able to just flip the switch in October and get into some intense playoff baseball and be ready?
To answer your question very briefly, I hope so. I mean, I think the last meaningful game that the White Sox played was probably the series versus Houston, just mainly because that's probably going to be the White Sox's first playoff opponent. And so I believe they won one game, but they lost the season series to Houston. So I am a little bit concerned about that. Just historically, Houston has beat up on the White Sox quite a bit. But other than that, I know baseball can be very ephemeral, very tricky. So who knows what happens? Maybe they'll surprise me and just take just sweep a division series. Who knows? Maybe they'll get swept. I mean, knock on wood. But I'm not gonna lie. I am a little bit worried.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of glass half empty right now. I know these games are kind of meaningless, but at the same time, it's very frustrated for just bad fundamental baseball. Just like poor base running, no real offense. Like, it's frustrating. And so I'm hoping what they're doing right now is just figuring this out. And I do appreciate the idea of resting, especially giving Carlos Rodon extra rest, giving Tim Anderson extra rest. Like, I appreciate the mindset of making sure everyone is healthy for postseason. But I'm kind of with Janice where I'm being cautious about what I think is going to happen in postseason because, like Janice said, the Astros beat us up every single time. And that's...
I'm really interested to hear that you think they've been playing a little sloppy and some sleepwalking because baseball is such a game of habits. And just to say we're going to tighten it up in October, it doesn't seem like it's, an automatic thing.
Yeah, I just hope they're working through it.
Especially the White Sox bullpen, which has been, look at the. Personally, I think that the strength is going to be the bullpen, and they addressed it in the trade deadline. Which, what I like about them and what Toronto did with getting Jose Barrios is address some and just giving him fortitude a little bit. And again, the Craig Kimbrell kid, by the way, when he posed with the that was such a great story. But Kimbrell. There's been talk about him getting fatigued, and I don't know. Do you see any fatigue with him at all? Because I thought, he's been like a little hit and miss, but I didn't think he was been pitching that bad.
Yeah, it hasn't been great. He's been very frustrating to watch. He was sold to us as this phenomenal closer, but I think they're screwing it up by letting him come in to do more relief stuff instead of closing. And I think it might just be a mental thing, but he's not looking like what was promised and what he was doing earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm. I know there's been some talks of possibly some dead arm going on there. I haven't looked at any of the numbers though, but it seems as if on some days fastball is there, Some days it's not. But a good friend of mine did write a little bit more in depth about that, and the whole gist is that he's definitely being misused as of right now. And so even though there were some early hypotheses going around saying that, oh yeah, bringing Kimbrel in the 8th inning is definitely kind of messing things up because he's not conditioned to be a setup man. He's a closer. And so, he was brought into a 9th inning not too long ago, and he ended up blowing that up too. So again, though, super small sample size there. But I guess when you look at the data all in all, we're seeing way too many inconsistent appearances from him. And so as a result, everyone's kind of doubting that acquisition now.
In terms of even the prospects they gave up too, I don't think I'll have to remember. I'll have to look that up. But
Madrigal.
Yeah.
I thought you were.
I mean, I definitely had my grievances with Madrigal too. I thought he was just a bonehead on the base paths. I mean, really fantastic 2-strike hitter. Definitely hit a bunch of clutch singles. I think he's going to be great for the Cubs, but just in the short stint that he played for the White Sox, there were definitely some infuriating things about him. Defense definitely wasn't there. So essentially, he gets those 2-strike hits, but the glove leaves much to be desired. And so does that base running too. I've seen way too many tooth lands from him. So Chrystal is laughing because she knows. She definitely knows about this.
It's rough. I loved him, but it was rough.
Because he reminds me of kind of like an old school, like just get on base, choke up the bat, get a looper kind of single in there, and then from what I know, Chris and I were kind of high on Tigers drafted him at one point because he could just hit, but then slowly realized like, oh shoot, there's no power. The Tigers can't develop second. I mean, this was at the time, but it's turned up a little bit differently. But again, I like the fact that both Toronto and Chicago were aggressive trading the. I mean, Toronto traded up Austin Martin. I mean, he was just. I mean, I thought that and this is a guy who, again, we thought the Tigers should have drafted. I mean, Spencer Torkelson's now turning us wrong. So right now, Chris is you're doing that. I was gonna say the Spencer Torkelson people with the torches. He's not overrated, and that's another story for another day. But either way, it's just for White Sox fans and for Tiger fans right now, sitting at second place for a while was I thought that heading into mid-September would have been nice for the Tigers to be in second place against Chicago, but Cleveland's doing the Cleveland things. But either way, we'll get to that series in a little bit. But right now, we're going to do one of my favorite segments.
It's time for Rogelio and Chris to go inside the numbers.
All right, it's time for Inside the Numbers, and you ladies have a number you want to throw out there?
Oh man, when you ask me to throw out a number, it's always going to be inappropriate. So
that's fine. That's fine.
We have no problem with it.
Yeah, I think whatever you're going to throw out there, I'm sure it will be perfectly fine.
I was discussing with a coworker earlier today that there aren't enough funny numbers. I mean, you've got like your typical like your 420 and your 69, right? But we need more funny numbers. The only one I can think of was 8,805. So
that's what I was
is that boobs on the calculator?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is why we're friends, Janice. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Do you remember? I remember my cousin Erin, a female, showed me that you could also spell out boobless.
Mm-hmm.
That's also true as well. I've also done that many times on my TI-83 graphing calculator.
Good old Texas Instruments. Chris, do you have the same number, or do you have a different number?
I was going to say the same one, so I don't know. I was
going to maybe look up very quickly the number of runners that the White Sox have left on base this past series, but I think that number is probably close to 8,805. I think it's definitely close to that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a number. I'm gonna actually lead off because I never get a chance to lead off, but I'm going with 51.3, and that is the whiff percentage of Gregory Soto on his four-seam fastball, which produces a negative value of -2. To be this later in the year, kudos to Mark, listener of the show that sent that over. to have that in September, holy shit. I mean, just it's impressive. Soto has come on. Some Tiger fans don't like the fact that he takes forever to close. He's the best pure stuff of all, recently. And if you're gonna bitch about something that's stupid, sorry, I can't follow your logic of thinking there. But yeah, Soto 51% with 51.3% on his 4-seam fastball. That's just crazy. So, Chris, what's yours? Or you got someone else?
Oh no, I was just saying he doesn't throw it enough. He throws the sinker too much. He throws the sinker slider for the most part in the 4-seamer. Maybe that's why he gets so many whiffs on it, because he doesn't throw it as much. But yeah, mine. It's kind of touching on. Last week I did a minor league home run thing, and is inspired by a tweet that you sent out, Rogelio. My inside the number is 7 and 3, and 7 is the number of Detroit Tigers minor leaguers with 20 or more home runs this year. So you got Josh Lester with 31, Torkelson with 26. Adeline Rodriguez hit his 27th tonight, I believe, and 201st in his career.
Was that the one that was out of the stadium?
Yeah, over the scoreboard.
Yeah, over the scoreboard. Yeah.
Riley Green 22. Renato Nunez is gone, but he had 20. Kristen Stewart had 20. Ryan Kryler has 20, and Ray Rivera has 19. So he could be getting close. So only that's tied for the third most in the majors, or third most by any team. Kansas City has 7 minor leaguers with 20 plus. Tampa has 8, and of course the Dodgers have 9. Because why not just constantly develop power hitters? But the 3, that is the number of Tigers minor leaguers aged 23 or younger with 20 plus homers. Basically the prospects. The other 4, as I mentioned, are just kind of career minor leaguers. So that's kind of a bummer. The Royals, 6 of their 7 are 23 or younger, and the Dodgers are 9 for 9.
So we did. By the way, we did get a question. We'll save it for later. For Chrystal and Janice. And that's the question right there. So if you guys want to take a look at that and save it for later, that's from Walter, who is I like to give him our associate producer role sometimes when we do this live, and I'm getting late, and I've been up for 14 hours. I'm starting to struggle. Walt comes in and just says some cool stuff. I don't even know the guy, but he's a good guy to always have on YouTube. Anyway, so we'll save that question for later. But at any rate, Uper, what is your inside number?
Well, first, let's backtrack to Craig Krimble for our guests, just to put some numbers on it. With the Cubs, 0.49 ERA. With the White Sox, 5.82. What made that up? Strikeout rate slightly down, walk rate slightly up, home run rate way up. So, yeah, he's not way off in all those numbers, but he's just enough off where damage is getting done. So, I just want to look up the numbers and kind of put some juice behind the opinion there. Makes a lot. He's got to be a disappointment right now. So, but it really is going to come down to the playoffs and what he does in the postseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
My number was 13. I was listening to MLB Network the other day, and they were going on and on about some of the old school stuff about it takes some special skills to get wins for pitchers, and it takes a special skill to get saves, to close in the ninth. And with the Tigers playing the Rays, I thought it was a good time to point out that the Rays, who do things their own way, admittedly, have 13 different guys who've gotten a save this year. So if it is some special skill, they got a good deal at Walmart. Because they've spread it around to 13 guys who've gotten a save. And so, and to make that, point that it's not a fluke that they've done that, I looked it up today. Last year in the 60-game season, plus the playoffs, so we're talking about 75 games, they also had 13 guys get saves in basically a 75-game run. So I think they've gone a fair amount of the way of proving that, it's about matchups, it's about skills, pitching skills. It's not necessarily about the intestinal fortitude of kneeling down saves.
The Rays also lead the league in relievers who sound like pitchers from the early 1900s, or I'm sorry, like painters. I mean, the guy pitching today, Dietrich Enns, never heard of him. Josh Fleming.
There's always a guy you've never heard of.
Yeah,
Ryan Sheriff.
Yeah.
The first name that always comes to mind is Hobie Milner. That is definitely like the most like early just 1900s baseball name I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, to expand upon that point, I believe the Yankees kind of have a similar situation in their bullpen too, like especially with Aroldis Chapman not necessarily being up to form lately. Their bullpen has certainly stepped up. So I know like Loaizaga has a handful of saves, even though he's injured now. Same thing with Chad Green, a handful of other dudes whose names I can't remember, even though I just wrote about them. But yeah, I guess to expand upon that point, yeah, I mean, it at face value, just looking at these two teams, it should be easy to get saves, right? But just looking at the White Sox bullpen, well, in order to get a save, you also have to win the game too. So that's also something else. So I guess this kind of can expand towards a conversation about my frustrations with the lineup. So I'm sure Chrystal has her own as well. But yeah, I think the age-old story is that sometimes there is just a pitcher that no one's ever heard of that will just come out of nowhere and just completely carve through the White Sox lineup. So Jansen Junk did that yesterday. So which I think is hilarious because like someone named Junk is like throwing no harder than 92 miles an hour.
Yeah, I saw you tweet about that.
Yeah, I was at last night's game too, and like I'm just looking at Baseball Savant while I'm watching the game, and I'm just like, there's no way that this guy has like an overpowering fastball. And so I looked it up, and it turns out I was right. This guy like has a fastball, but relies heavily on secondaries. So yeah, Jansen Junk, the junk baller. So.
I think sounds like the name of the character or the person who's the Martian Manhunter in DC Comics. I believe it's like John Jones. John Jones. So when you said that, I was like, wait, the guy from Martian Manhunter. So that's what I thought you were going with.
He definitely sounds more like a Star Wars character, like a non-playable character from a Star Wars video game that you just encounter when you're, I don't know, like walking through the cantina looking for stuff, or I don't know. Just
I did want to ask both of you in terms of even for fantasy purposes, Janice, with the Yankees bullpen. I was just thinking about this. Did a lot of people stay with Chapman, or were they dropping? Did you see any drops with Chapman, or people just stuck by him during that whole struggle?
The majority of people I've talked to have kind of stuck by him, just mainly because they have confidence that he's going to just find his stuff again. But I don't know. At this point, I feel as if there's so little of the season left that there's not really much to trust him with now. But oh dang, I actually do have the Yankee. Oh, they lost today. So again, you have to win the game in order to get a save. But let me see here. Oh, it looks like someone else blew the game. So it's not even Chapman's fault. So.
In terms of even the one thing I wanted to ask Chrystal, in terms of even from a AAA standpoint for the White Sox, what they have right now, I know that Carl Edwards Jr. is down in the minors somewhere, but has there been any type of help that come up to help out with the bullpen? I know there's been some injuries, but there's been any type of relief help at all?
Not really, Janice. Do you? I mean, there's.
Yeah, bullpen depth, especially in AAA, is not necessarily a thing right now. Yeah, certainly the strength certainly relies in bats. So I mean, everyone was definitely kind of hyping up Romy Gonzalez, who actually did come into relief today in today's game. And
got some strikes.
Yeah, he did very, very well. I believe he played a scoreless inning. That was the only bit of the game that I thought was worth watching. So especially in games as horrible as that, you kind of have to rely on position players pitching and doing well to kind of alleviate some of that that disappointment, I suppose.
I can't even think of anybody way down, like cannonballers down. There's just, there's nothing there, unfortunately.
Mikey Mactook's got 20 home runs for Charlotte.
Well, that's
the only pitching prospect I can think of that has been kind of making waves is maybe Matthew Thompson, who's on the Cannonballers.
No.
But other than that, the farm system is definitely just full of like first base DH type dudes.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I'm surprised we didn't see Carl Edwards Jr. at some point. This former Cub, it seems like it's just now buried somewhere in, I believe, in Charlotte. So it's just kind of strange to see that, how the mighty have fallen a little bit. Because I mean, a couple years ago, it was a good setup, man. Was he part of that White Sox? I think was he? I know he was like a. I was trying to think of was he in San Diego too, Chris? Why am I thinking it was in San Diego?
Carlos,
Cubs.
He came up with the Rangers, got traded to the Cubs. I believe he got the last out in the World Series. Maybe not. And then he was pretty good for a couple of years, and like most relievers, then he just broke.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he pitched late in that game. I think Mike Montgomery got the last out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
What I was wondering for our guests, with La Russa, let's go back to him, and let's kind of go back to, the fact that they haven't played a pressurized game in a long time. The postseason is really when pitching moves gets heavily scrutinized. I mean, let's face it. I mean, that's half the game discussion after games is when a pitcher was pulled, when they went to certain relievers for matchups and so on. What's the general sense right now of La Russa and his old school ways, and how that's going to match up in the postseason with the pitching staff on hand?
I feel as if he's definitely been learning. I don't think I would go so far as to say he's been successful, but he's certainly evolved. He's especially earlier on the season, he was leaving guys out there for way too long, to the point where, I believe there was a start where Lucas Giolito was like very just visibly just gassed, and La Russa left him out there for about 115 to 120 pitches. He was very heavily scrutinized for that, but that hasn't happened since. I believe that happened in May, if I'm remembering correctly. Lately he's definitely been a lot better with pulling starters when they need to be pulled, and going to the bullpen when he needs to. And now bullpen management there is another story altogether. Especially because we're seeing a lot of the more low leverage guys in high leverage situations as of lately. So guys like Mike Wright pitching the ninth inning, Jose Ruiz, those dudes. So, it's definitely not a great look, especially because you expect pitchers like you expect a Michael Kopech or a Garrett Crochet to be able to, say, retire hitters with ease. But of course, last night, Michael Kopech gave up that pretty crucial home run. He's been having his own troubles. In my opinion, I feel as if he needs to pitch more. I don't think he's getting enough innings in. But to go back to La Russa, I feel as if he'll probably continue. Oh my goodness, I honestly actually haven't even thought about La Russa in the postseason. Just mainly because I've just been criticizing him in the present. But given what Rick Renteria did in the postseason last year, I feel as if that Game 3 of the wild card series against Oakland was probably one of the most poorly managed games I've seen in a long while. So I feel as if Tony La Russa has to at least do better than that. Which, I mean, it's going to be very hard to do worse than that, honestly.
Yeah, I agree, and it's troubling still for me. I'm kind of worried about what he's going to do based on kind of early grades I had for him with leaving players in completely gassed, and with Dallas Keuchel just kind of imploding. I mean, yesterday he had probably the best game he's had almost all season, and it still wasn't great by any means. So I think he just kind of misuses a lot of our guys. He misuses the bullpen for sure. Like Janice said, I don't know what he's doing with Michael Kopech, but he's just destroying him mentally because he's not meant to come in and pitch an inning or two. That's why he's getting blown up every time he's out there. He's not being stretched out properly. He's only ever known being a starting pitcher, and he's coming in and just imploding in front of us when we know he's better than that. He's insane. I mean, the other night, I think he topped like 101, 102, and then he just gets misused every single time. So I just worry about what he's going to do. And his lineups are usually pretty questionable too. So I get a little concerned about that.
Yeah, the getaway day lineups are very getaway day.
Yeah, that was always a big criticism of Jim Leland, who was, a contemporary of Tony La Russa. It was funny. I was going to ask you guys which of the other fellow playoff teams scares you the most, but it might be your own team.
Depends on what your definition of scaring is. I think definitely I am scared of my own team, just for the reasons that were aforementioned. I'm just anticipating entering in with all this unbridled hubris and just being absolutely humiliated, in the first inning. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. I'm speaking it into existence just mainly so it doesn't happen. But I feel as if Houston is probably going to give the White Sox the most trouble. Like I mentioned before, just every time the White Sox play Houston, I think it's maybe the 2005 curse. Like after the White Sox swept them in the World Series, they've just always just completely just mashed them afterwards, especially at Minute Maid Park. The White Sox just do not do well at Minute Maid Park at all. So I especially do not look forward to any games at Minute Maid Park.
Yeah.
Honestly, the best way to shorten up a game is with Kopech's 13.27 K per nine. I mean, if you're going to put him out there, put him for 3 or 4 innings. And does that? I mean, I'm assuming because you just look at it this way. Here's a guy. If Keuchel blows up, for example, and has a bad game, you put Kopech in there to save the day. And I mean, he's only got just under 60 innings right now currently. So
that's way too little. Too little.
And considering correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't pitch last year, correct?
He opted out last year.
Yeah, opted out last year.
Yeah, he opted out last year.
So here's a guy that you can just unleash out there as a swingman and do what the Yankees done in the postseason, which is they used their bullpen to shorten him up. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, set him up that way. And I think that's where you would have advantage against a team like Houston, Houston's a team that's a kind of veteran-laced team, but with a chip on their shoulder. But I think with a shortened up bullpen, that's where Kopech will shine. I think it's just because, every time I look at that K per 9, I'm like, is that real? No, that's not. That's not an arcade number. That's sick.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, especially if he plans to be in the starting rotation next season, which he should be, just mainly because the plans for Carlos Rodon are a little bit unwritten as of right now. He needs to be stretched out now. So 60 innings is definitely not going to be enough. In my opinion, he should be pitching 2 to 3 innings, maybe perform some mop-up duty if one of the starters implodes. Keuchel. But I feel as if the plan for Kopech as of right now is murky. I already have my Kopech opinions, and they're pretty much the same as Chrystal's. But I feel as if he's like Chrystal said, just being grossly misused.
What's an interesting stat about him too is that when he has been used in 1 inning stints recently, is where you see it's kind of like a Jekyll. It's getting a little better, but it's when he goes multiple innings, that's where he's a lot better. So I don't understand how you don't look at that and go, hey, comments. I'm looking at Fangraphs. I'm not looking at anything spectacular over here. Anybody can look at Fangraphs and go, here's the data. It's mind-boggling, and I know, Chrystal. I think you've had him recently in your 6-pack of stats, correct?
Yeah, got him quite a bit.
Yeah. So, but without further ado, it is time. If I can find it.
The good.
Oh, that's good.
The bad.
Oh, that's bad.
And the ugly.
All right, it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know we've been talking a lot of negativity about a lot of different. Mcdonald, the White Sox, and the Tigers winning 70 games is a positive, and we'll get to that here in a second. But Uper, I'll let you kick off for the good and the bad, and the ugly.
Well, I was looking at the Royals quite a bit lately because I did a couple articles about their minor league system and how it compares to the Tigers system. That got me looking at their big league club. So let me give you these two numbers: 4.2 and 3.9. Okay, fairly close numbers, but the 3.9 is the F-WAR of Mookie Betts. Okay, so superstar player, somebody everybody wants on their team. The 4.2 is from the Royals. It's from one Nicky Lopez.
What?
And I've been watching a bit of Nicky Lopez, which I'm going to admit has been for fantasy purposes because I need steals. But the guy has really morphed into a pesky hitter who gets on base. He's drawing walks. He's hitting the ball with a little more authority. A year or two ago, I thought he was just a roster filler. He looked like a guy who was going to hit 211, and as soon as they have, their rebuild is close to done, he's out the door. But he's become a very handy little player for them, and they have some amazing depth building at shortstop. They're going to have some deals to make to get some tasty stuff because obviously Bobby Witt Jr. is coming. Lopez is establishing himself, and they have Nick Lofton in their minor league system, and he's crushing it right now. So the Royals can be pretty happy with their shortstop situation, and Nicky Lopez is part of it.
It's good. That's a good one there, Heber.
My bad, A's bullpen. I was watching A's Royals last night. In the month of September, as the A's are trying to contend, bullpen ERA as a unit 8.51. That's not going to get it done. So they've been blowing leads like crazy. If they don't make it in, they're about 3 games back. They won today, so maybe they're 2.5 back.
It's 7-2 over the Royals.
Yeah, if they don't make the wild card, it's going to probably be on their bullpen because they are hitting the ball pretty well. Their line is pretty solid, but they're just not. They got some decent pitchers in that bullpen, but they don't strike a lot of guys out. I looked it up. They have one of the lowest aggregate velos of any bullpen in baseball. So they didn't assemble a power bullpen, and it's kind of leaking oil on them down the stretch here. And I didn't go ugly today. We're going good, bad, and sublime. I know we talk about Max Scherzer a lot. I do because I'm just a fanboy of his. But the other night, when he got his 3,000th strikeout, we got to congratulate him for that. But only Max could also get his 3,000th strikeout. He gets his 3rd immaculate inning of his career to tie Koufax. And he was 5 outs from a perfect game. I mean, my gosh. I mean, what a show for a guy to put on. It doesn't get any better than that. I hope he ekes out the Cy Young in the National League. I'm not sure he will. There's quite a few guys in the running in the NL versus the AL. But that was just one of the best performances you're going to see out of Max Scherzer the other day. That was quite a show you don't see too often.
Yeah, Mac in the inning as well. Max Scherzer just we're not worthy. And Bob Nightingale, screw you for tweeting that out about Robbie Ray too, man. Dude. Come on.
You know what's funny is I had the exact same tweet the day before, and I'm like, nobody wants to hear that.
All right, Chris, you got a good, bad, and ugly?
I do. We were talking earlier about pitchers you never heard of. So my good is Logan Webb, who I've never heard of. And I'd like to blame that fact on that he plays on the West Coast and in the National League, but it's probably not a good enough excuse for somebody who purports to be a baseball fan. But he pitches for the San Francisco Giants, and he's been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball since the All-Star break. He's 6-0 in 12 starts with a 2.21 ERA and a 5-1 strikeout to walk ratio. And honestly, I was like, who the hell is this guy? So, he's a sinker slider guy, but a really absurd slider. He throws it about 28% of the time, and it's got a 46% whiff rate on it. And I was looking, he's a 4th rounder from 2014. And he was never like a super highly touted prospect. He made it up to number 6 for Baseball America in 2019. But in his first 2 seasons, it was 5.36 ERA. But this year he's in negative WAR at Baseball Reference. This year he's up to 3.5 WAR, and he doesn't turn 25 until November. He's exactly 2 days older than Tarek Skubal. So that seems like a pretty good development for the Giants this year because it seems like everything's gone right for them. So Logan Webb, new one to me. I don't know. Maybe you guys have all heard of him, probably, but
I haven't, admittedly.
I have actually. There's a spider that lives in my car's rear view mirror, like the driver's side. Like there's a little crevice that he crawls under, and he's about maybe an inch wide and an inch long. I've named him Logan Webb.
There you go.
Nice.
It's like our cat Austin Purr. But I told Roger about that. There's a minor leaguer in the Tiger system named Austin Murr. My bad is the Cincinnati Reds. The poor Reds. They did win today, I believe, but they're 5-9 in September and 5-12 in their last 17 games, and currently on the outside looking in the playoffs. And what's got to be super annoying for them is that nobody else in the National League hunt is playing well except for the Cardinals. The Cardinals devil magic going on right now. The Phillies are like 3 or 4 games under 500. The Mets are, right at 500. All the Reds had to do was play 500 baseball, and they can't do it. They've lost 7 consecutive series.
Wow.
They lost to the Brewers, which fine, but then they lost to Miami, St. Louis. There you go.
There's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos. It will be a home run.
Yep. So they lost to the Marlins, the Cardinals, the Tigers, the Cubs, the Cardinals again, and the Pirates. They won 1-0 against the Pirates today to salvage 1 game in that series. And now the Dodgers are coming to town for 3 games.
Oh.
The good news for them, I guess, is that they 10 of their final 12 games are against the Pirates and the Nationals. But, given what they've done the last couple of weeks, that doesn't really matter. And then the other 2 games are against the White Sox, so that should be fun. And it just always kind of brings me back to all the stuff, all the losing they did to try to rebuild and the trades they made, trading for Trevor Bauer. And what that got them was 2 games in the playoffs last year where they never scored. And if they miss the playoffs again, I don't know. It's been bad for the Reds. And my ugly is former Cubs prospect and current Tigers minor leaguer, Zach Short, which I don't know that any Tigers fans ever really thought he was going to be a huge part of the future, but there was some promise there. And he looked pretty good in his first, 70 plate appearances, 20 games or whatever. Hit 3 homers, was walking a ton, playing solid D at shortstop, which made up for, a lot of strikeouts and a low batting average. He was a 121 WRC plus through the 70 plate appearances, which again, small sample. But the second half of the season, ooh boy, kind of stinky. 11 for 99 with 3 home runs, 5 walks, 31 strikeouts. It's a 111 batting average and a -9 weighted runs created plus. -9. Which I mean, presumably that means you'd be better with just nobody at shortstop. But I don't know.
Learned weighted runs created plus could be negative. I had no idea that was possible.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Apparently, yeah. And kind of we've been talking about him as maybe the potential replacement for Nico Goodrum as a super utility man, but you're going to have to hit better than 111 to do that. So I don't know. I'm starting to think that maybe Harold Castro is the super utility man for the future for the Tigers, even though Baseball Savant has him as one of the worst defenders in baseball this year with -12 outs above average. He's managed to be a negative in 6 different positions, which I can relate to.
That's an achievement.
I mean, Nico Goodrum's had a pretty good outs above average too. He's actually in the
he's a good defender. So
do you, Chrystal or Janice, have a good, bad, and ugly you want to contribute this evening?
I can.
I've got a good and possibly a bad, or this bad is pretty ugly too. So maybe this can just double for both of that. But, Chrystal, if you've got something, you can go ahead and.
Yeah, I have. I mean, they're both White Sox related because that's
awesome.
Really who I follow the most.
Please.
My good is that Yasmani Grandal has now reached base in 30 consecutive games since returning. He is the 5th player in White Sox history in the last 40 years to do that. So that's cool, and I love him. Please cue the Moneyball gif because he gets on base. That's my man. And this one kind of falls in bad and ugly too. I was reading the White Sox are now 29-28 since the All-Star game, which is deeply upsetting considering how poor they've been playing when they should have, like I said earlier, clinched like a week ago, along with the Giants.
Wow. All right. Janice, go ahead.
All right. So my good is also Yasmani Grandal related. So he returned to the White Sox lineup from the injured list on August 27th. So in the 15 games he's played, he's gone 21 for 51. So that's basically good for a 412 average. I know a lot of folks were kind of dogging him because he was hitting, I think, like 183 at the very beginning of the year. But now, not only is he hitting for power, but he's also been hitting for contact lately, which is really fantastic to see. So his on-base percentage in those 15 games is .523, which includes 11 walks drawn. So to give you some perspective, he's walked 11 times in the last 15 games and has struck out 8 times. So looking at his season total, I believe his walks and strikeouts are pretty much even. Let's see here. All right, so he has 71 walks and 72 strikeouts. Still pretty fantastic that he's managed to keep those two up to par. But anyway, I cannot speak enough about how much I love Yasmani and how grateful I am to have him back in the lineup. My ugly is also very bad too, and that has to do with Dallas Keuchel. So yesterday he actually did pretty decent, and so he's the sinker is basically his bread and butter. It's his primary pitch. Not only was the velocity up on that, I know he's definitely not a velo guy. He's a soft tossing lefty, so that pitch was looking fantastic. It was even seeing a little bit of a spin increase too. But it was good for 4 whips and 11 called strikes. But even though Keuchel, all in all, looked pretty good yesterday, his past 5 starts have not. So to give you guys some perspective, in 20 innings pitched, he has a 10.02 ERA in 5 starts. Woof. Fielding independent pitching, a little bit better, but still not great, 5.25. So opponents are currently batting .394 against him. So for any folks listening who may be on an opposing team to pitch or to hit against Dallas Keuchel, if you want to get your average up, apparently that's the way to do so. But anyway, all in all, he's been doo-doo. But anyway, that is my bad and my ugly.
I hope the Tigers take him on Monday. That'd be cool.
I believe he is pitching against the Tigers sometime next week. If it all goes well, it looks like he'll be pitching Tuesday. So,
Tigers.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Tigers friends.
No, it's I just the fact that we had Tim Anderson. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I like Tim Anderson as a player. I like his style. I like his demeanor. I like his swagger. And it's just like I said, I'm a bitter Tigers fan because I was just talking about my brother about this today. White Sox have all these cool players. They have all these Cuban players. We're both, we're talking about like we're Cuban and we just sit there and I'm just like, nope, can't do it. Nope. And it's frustrating. I mean, even that the City Connect jerseys, which I think was the best of the bunch, was pretty cool. I know there's some people had a mixed opinion about it, but
they grew on me, honestly.
Yeah.
I hated them at first, but yeah, they definitely grew on me.
I don't know. Did you guys like the Dodgers one, by the way?
It's so boring.
Yeah. I thought it was way too similar to their normal uniforms. They could have done so much with it.
I didn't mind the uniform. I hated the hat. It said Los Dodgers on the hat. It's just too much. It was too crowded on there.
I didn't mind the hat. I understand what you're saying though, because a lot of these new era hats are really dumb with like just so much going on. But at the same time, I could kind of tip of the cap to that a little bit. But the jerseys were just like kind of little league. Or the what was it? The nickname jerseys. That's kind of what it looked like. LA's jersey was like that nickname thing they were doing.
Players Weekend.
Yeah, Players Weekend. Thank you. Yeah, Players Weekend. Yeah. Good call, Uper. Thank you. I couldn't remember that, but
I think the Rays had the best of all of the City Connect. Those were my favorite.
Those were really good.
Those were awesome.
The Diamondbacks are good too. It says Serpientes on there. I like those ones.
I like that one.
Miami. I have the Miami hat. Thanks, Chris. I got the sugar because they get a nod of the Sugar Canes. Those were pretty cool. Miami was my favorite, but I mean. The Rays, you know what? Though I mean, Rays and Miami were tied. I think because the Rays one's really sweet too. So, because I wanted to get one of the jerseys at least, but I still haven't made my mind. But my good is the wild card race, and I know you talked last week about the lack of races and what have you. But all of a sudden, Toronto's like, all right, hold my beer, and has made a 3-way tie for the wild card for the top 2 spots. And Yankees and Toronto are tied. And it makes for compelling baseball because, I mean, it still amazes me that Seattle with the run differential of minus 65 somehow in this race, but they're kind of fading fast a little bit. But either way, to me, that's good because it just makes for very competitive baseball. And as much as we are all AL Central folk here, we all love baseball. We love a good race. And even what's better is the NL wild card right now is San Diego is just 6 games better than the Tigers. And they're a half game back of St. Louis, which again, Chris, how do the Cardinals do it? How the hell do they do it? I don't understand it. I every year they somehow come out of nowhere and they're like, you know what, Tyler O'Neill, boom, career year,
Yeah.
boom, Jack Flaherty. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Just wow.
Tommy Edman. No, it's always some random 27-year-old white dude who went to a Mac school.
Harrison Bader.
No, that's why I think of Marquise, our buddy Marquise, who just before every year just picks the Cardinals to win the Central because they figured out.
So, shout out to Marquise.
I mean, everybody was clueless about why they went out and got John Lester and J.A. Happ, who have both been horrible. You know, they got them both at the deadline, and all of a sudden they're pitching big innings for them. Where does that come from?
I don't know. The genius of Mike Schilt.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people in St. Louis who would say that out loud. I really believe that.
No, of course not. No.
No, but no. And speaking of my bad, the bad is the San Diego Padres, who they're 4-6 in the last 10, but since they fired. I saw a stat about Larry Rothschild. They've gotten worse since firing their pitching coach, and they are just with all this talent they have on this team. It's just kind of interesting to see what has to work for them, because you look at the Dodgers and the Giants are beginning really good starting pitching, but Yu Darvish, and I'm not bashing Yu Darvish on purpose, but he's been
Terrible.
He's been terrible, and they need him. And then Blake Snell's back on the IL again, and so that's not working out for him. Their rotation essentially has been Joe Musgrove, and that's really about it. And it's just been kind of a hodgepodge, and so you have to wonder at some point too, when does AJ Preller kind of get not more of a free pass anymore? I mean, in terms of GMs out there, he's had this rebuild. I don't know how long you guys think the rebuild's gone on in San Diego, but it seems like it's just at one point, what do you cut the cord? But right now at 76 wins, they should not be as good as the Tigers are in terms of from a win standpoint. So, but that is my bad. And the ugly, and you're talking about the Reds, so you took away my thunder a little bit on that, Chris. Uh-oh. But no, it's okay. It's really, it's kind of funny, but it's kind of not ugly. It's ugly good, and that's Frank Swindell of the Cubs.
Oh, there you go.
And the reason why I say it's ugly good, because good for him, former Tiger, farmhand, is getting a shot. But the fact that the Cubs are doing this and kind of celebrating putting crappy players, I'm not saying he's crappy, but just they're celebrating this as some sort of moral victory, to me is just disgusting. And what I mean by that is because the Cubs, I mean, you guys are White Sox fans, but I'm sure Chicago Cubs fans right now are like, okay, we're celebrating this. Why? I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean? You see Chris Bryant go out there and there's emotional tribute to him. And then you look at the Cubs are like, hey, open trial for any AAA farmhand. And then you see the Iowa Cubs lose by football score to the Toledo Mud Hens. And didn't you just tell me that somebody out there said that was the worst Iowa team they've seen in a long time?
Oh, yeah. The guy who's longtime season ticket holder, I was sitting next to him as the Mud Hens were hitting balls out of the park left and right. And he said he's never been so depressed to go watch the Iowa Cubs as he has been this year. There's literally not a guy who you think of as having even an average major league future sitting on that roster right now. And they played like it. It was just a thoroughly dead ballpark for the home team. It was the handful of Tigers fans watching Cody Clemens hit 3 doubles and Daz Cameron hit 2 home runs. We're doing all the cheering. It was really ugly. It was batting practice, basically, for the Tigers.
The temperature check amongst my Cubs fan friends, everyone's pretty angry, and rightfully so. And even though I love Frank Schwindel, I've written him up a few times, but the dude still has yet to make a name for himself. When you try to play as him in MLB The Show, they just say, oh, here comes number 18. So I mean, I think that says a lot. Like, can we just like please get some DLC where like someone says his name, just like the dude deserves to have his name just announced on the show. So, but yeah, I definitely can empathize. Just being a fan of a team has seemed to be in a perpetual rebuild for like the past like 10, 15 years or so. Yeah, I absolutely can empathize with my Cubs fan friends.
If I can throw in a bonus ugly related to the Cubs, if you saw their score today, they were up 7-0 in the third inning. They are now losing 17-8.
Oh my goodness!
Last we checked, it had been tied. So
17-8.
Wow.
Are they still playing?
How about that?
That deserves a Mel Allen. How about that? There.
Very good.
No, I just don't understand it, and since you guys are so, I can tell. A lot of times when I see Sarah Sanchez tweeting, it's like she's just like I'm surprised she hasn't completely lost her temper as of yet. Maybe she has. I don't know, but it's just
she's one of my favorite people for not just that reason, but I can certainly, man.
she keeps it real.
She does, and I feel for I feel for all of my friends, but yeah, woof.
All right, so we did get a couple questions today, Chris. So I have one. So we had Walter ask with this question here, and I'll let Chrystal or Janice lead off with this answer here. How long have the White Sox had their full team healthy and together? Have that just clicked yet? It seemed like they would get on a roll if they in the playoffs. That they could be tough to beat. Totally butchered the answer. They're asking that, but
I mean, they haven't even been healthy and at full strength this entire season. It seems like as soon as they kind of get back, somebody goes down. Like Adam Engel went down. I felt like we had the entire squad together, and he was injured, and then Tim was injured again. So, I mean, I don't think they've been healthy at all this year. There's been no full squad. So, I mean, how are they supposed to click when it's just this revolving door of injured list?
And I think probably one injury that is definitely going to be felt, at least for the near future, is Ryan Tapara. He was doing absolutely fantastic before he went down with his finger injury. And even though his first couple of appearances were a little rough, but he ended up smoothing things out. But that's definitely going to be one injury that I feel is going to affect them in the short, long term, meaning the rest of this season and perhaps the postseason too. But as for the lineup, though, I mean, a lot of us were super overjoyed when Eloy came back, when Luis Robert came back, and finally when Yasmani Grandal came back, which I thought was just the most influential comeback from the injured list, in my opinion, for the White Sox. But I guess to address Walter's question, at face value, yeah, this team absolutely could get on a roll and be tough to beat in the playoffs. But of course, too, I mean, execution, bullpen management, lineup management, lineup construction, whether or not guys stay healthy in this last stretch of couple of games before. Wow, I even messed that up too. Y'all know what I'm saying, though. There are going to be so many variables that influence how the White Sox will perform in the postseason. But I honestly do hope that they are the team on a roll to beat. Who knows? I mean, we've said it ad nauseum a couple of times, but I don't know. I admittedly do not have too much confidence heading into the postseason. I hope I'm wrong. But anyway, we'll just see how things roll out.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they do go up against the Astros, if they can beat the Astros, they can win it all. Like, my confidence in them would be way up. But yeah, I don't know.
If you had to guess, a lot of times the playoff series come down to unheralded people carrying a team for a few days. If you take Tim Anderson and Jose Abreu, who I think most non-hardcore White Sox fans, they know them, I would guess take those two guys to dominate a series. Who among that second tier would you pick as, yeah, that's my guy who's going to win a couple games in a series for us.
That's a good
Yeah,
question.
Johnny.
I think, oddly enough, lately Leori Garcia he has been just oddly productive, and I mean, like we've been bemoaning him for the first half of the season. He's also the longest tenured member of the team as well, so it's kind of just easy to kind of lambast him for like just not being able to move runners along, or just grounding into double plays, or just completely killing rallies. But lately, though, he's been on a little bit of a tear. So I hope he just keeps that momentum up. I feel as if he's going to be an unexpected postseason hero, along with Yasmani. Yasmani just being a hero is evergreen to me. I cannot sing his praises enough. Like, the dude either gets on base, and he looks stylish doing so. Like, even when he walks, just his bat drop for walks is just so incredibly, like, just devil may care. Like, get this bat out of my way. Give me my base.
I trust Yasmani Grandal with my life. And everything. And I
You let
do.
him watch your kids.
Yeah, I trust him the most to kind of be a hero in a game. But I agree. I mean, I just actually wrote about Leori Garcia yesterday, about how he's been really underrated lately. Because he's pulled off some magnificent feats, and I've had to kind of beat Crow, and all of the times I'm just like, are we done with this Garcia experiment? I'm sick of this. But I agree with her point, with Janice's point too. He's been great. I'm trusting him a bit more.
From just from an outside perspective, and I haven't been watching the games, but Luis Roberts seems like the sort of guy who, in my experience, sometimes the guys in the playoffs who have the best series are the dudes who just swing at everything. Like Delman Young had 2 monster playoff performances for the Tigers. I think he won like the MVP for the ALCS one year. Sometimes when those guys get locked in, they're swinging at everything, but they're hitting everything hard. And it's like, oh, he goes 8 for 17 in a series and he leads you to the wins. But I don't know. I don't. They could also go 0 for 17.
Yeah, there was one pitcher that I wanted to mention, Chrystal, and you mentioned in the article, was Dylan Cease. And what is, in the last couple of weeks, what's been the big difference maker for him? Because there was a guy who I thought that in the beginning of the season would be a decent 4 for 5th starter. But what in the last couple of weeks has he been kind of just stepping up a little bit more? I mean, looking at his July and August numbers, it seems like he's been the kind of more becoming a little more consistent.
Yeah, he has I feel like he's a bit more confident, and that kind of splatters all over the plate. Like, his command is just a lot better. He's just performing and like certifying that he should be there postseason in rotation. I mean, I trust him over Dallas Keuchel any day, obviously, but like there were times when I'm just like, well, maybe he's a little bit better than Lucas Giolito right now, because Lucas was kind of going through a really rough patch there for a little bit, but he's been consistent. He's been able to eat innings. He's been able to just have better command altogether, and he's just been one to watch. Like, I think working with Ethan Katz has really just set him back on this right path. They were talking about the whole like core velocity belt and all of this stuff in spring training, and he was showing all this great promise. And I mean, I feel like he always shows great promise in spring training and then just kind of falls apart, but he's really stuck with it this year. He's been really impressive just to watch, and I've trusted him more and more as a pitcher as the season's progressed.
So there's the Fetter effect up here, because pitching coach Chris Fetter. Is it Cat's Magic, or was a cool little nickname you guys got for Ethan Katz? Because I know we've talked about Ethan Katz before and how people were really excited for him coming aboard as a pitching coach. But is there a cool little nickname for you guys have for him yet?
Not really. He's just part of the Harvard Westlake, I guess, clique there. Although I don't really know what that gets us beyond like maybe attracting Max Fried and Jack Flaherty in the future. But I think though that was one of the favorite off-season coaching acquisitions that we had, just mainly because it certainly kind of offset the aftertaste from the Tony La Russa hiring. So we just had this super old school, curmudgeonly, just set in his ways manager, and now we're hiring this young, fresh pitching coach who worked for the Giants, and then he was Lucas Giolito's high school pitching coach too. So that kind of, I guess, sweetened the deal a little bit, made the Tony La Russa hiring a little more easier to stomach.
We got a little. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say I still will hear Coop will fix them. Like Don Cooper is gone, but like I still hear that. I think it's just habit. So I'm just like, no, Cats will fix them. Doesn't flow as well, but.
Yeah, I would go with Dr. Katz, but that's a random reference from a mid-'90s cartoon. So
we used that on our podcast. We actually did have the Dr. Katz.
Nice.
Yeah, we had a Dr. Katz cover on one of our podcast episodes.
That's awesome. That's an underrated show to me.
It's good.
So good. But we got carried away here, and we started the Fetter Made. We took the Better Made potato chips, which is a local Detroit thing. I don't know if you've ever had them, but we made Fetter Made.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So we got a little carried away with it because we've noticed the same pitching staff as essentially last year with Rick Anderson, and then you see with Chris Fetter, and it's like he's making Tyler Alexander a viable option. He's done a lot with Kyle Funkhauser, and so I was just kind of curious because it seems like to see that kind of progress in Dylan Cease and some other pitchers too, including. I was going to say even I don't know. Aaron Bummer he's been, I don't know. I looked at some of his numbers, but I'm not sure if he's been pitching well as of late, but
he's been okay as of late.
He's been okay.
Yeah, Rodon. Yeah, Carlos Rodon.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah,
Carlos Rodon is out of this world.
He's got the taco meat flowing, and I'm a fan of that. I call it taco meat, but anyway, so I digress. So Chris, I think we did get a question on Twitter.
We did. Let's see if I can. I don't know if you could see that. I put it in the private chat, but it was from Dwight Davis. He said, congrats on 400, which, yes, very nice. Do you spend money on a free agent outfielder this winter? I don't, he says. I want maximum at-bats for Hill, Daz Cameron, Akil Baddoo, Riley Green, even Victor Reyes, the way he's hit lately, along with Grossman and even Haas. I want to see what we have in that group next year. So, basically, would we sign a big free agent outfielder? We talk about the number of who's going to be out there. Castellanos is out there, probably not an option to come back to Detroit. I kind of sneakily like him to the White Sox. I don't know if the White Sox are going to spend any money. Seems like he would be fun in that lineup.
Oh yeah.
The White Sox spend money? Oh.
No.
Well, there you go. I mean, but then who else? I mean, you got Michael Conforto is a strict outfielder. The one everybody talks about is Starling Marte. Mm-hmm. At least all the Tigers fans kind of want. I don't know. What do you anybody else you guys think of?
No, I've been on the Starling Marte train for a while. I think he would be ideal to add to the top of the order with the speed and the power. I understand what Dwight is saying. It just really depends on what the goal is for the team. I mean, do they intend to contend next year, or is it another building year? If it's a building year, then yeah, maybe you do give all those young guys more at bats. But if there's any inclination to contend, I don't think you take a winter off from trying to get better. So if they can get into the sweepstakes for a Starling Marte, he's better than just about any guy on that list that you mentioned that the Tigers currently have. So if they can afford it, and we know Chris Ilitch is pretty wealthy, I would love to see it. I think outfield is an underrated point where they could look to add.
And I think for me, it's simply you don't know what you're going to get your sophomore year of Akil Baddoo. It's always that second year or third year. Correct? It seems like that's when your player comes in stride, and pitchers have enough film on them and what have you. So I think that they should get somebody. I think they should add a bat because at a certain cost, if they're going to upgrade a shortstop, so be it. And they've said that they're going to spend money. That being said, I would rather them spend money on a bat. And if it's an outfield bat, so be it. a shortstop, I think you can't do this piecemeal crap with a shortstop anymore. You can't, because it's not going to work. But I love Derek Hill, I know, but people think he's a fourth outfielder, and I know that this is going to crack people up, but maybe I've seen somebody suggest even going after Adam, former White Sox. No,
Adam Eaton.
Adam Eaton. He's a veteran outfielder. He's a scrapper. He's a gamer.
He got cut from 3 teams this year.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that gets trade for Ketel Marte, that would be fun. The thing that I come back to, it's always a matter of like, well, what does it cost? So like I was looking, to me, the most similar player to Starling Marte to sign a contract in the last 4 or 5 years is Lorenzo Kane, who signed a 5-year, $80 million deal. Do we want to give Marte a 5-year, $80 million deal? I don't know. Maybe he's like 33. That's tough. For me, I've kind of long advocated for Chris Taylor, somebody who can play the outfield. He could also play the infield, something like that, where you can get a guy. Say somebody goes down, all right, throw him in center field, throw him in right field. Somebody in the infield goes down, play him at second, shortstop even. I like that idea a little bit more. But like you said, Raj, it's all about getting better. And like you said, do they want to? I feel like Hinch is not the type to sit around and wait for these guys to figure things out. Like spring training is gonna be a tryout. If you're playing well, you make the team. If you don't, you're back in AAA. Like they don't want to fool around and give these guys 400 at bats to figure things out right now. So
yeah,
I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to taking an outfielder. I just I do feel like everybody else, I feel like shortstop's probably the biggest need. But if that doesn't work out, then sure, take the best bat you can find.
Yeah, there was a question too that came from our buddy, the Toledo alumni Mike, on Twitter about moving Akil Baddoo to first. But I don't know about that. Question was one of those questions like, well, I understand the spirit of the question, but no.
Yeah, well, I mean, he doesn't have the power you would expect from a first baseman. I mean, he's got 12, 13 home runs this year. He's also one of the fastest players in baseball. You don't necessarily want that at first base. Not that he's been terribly good at outfielder. So I don't know. I mean, I get the idea of trying to just find space for everybody, but I think that would do a disservice to the team and to Akil Baddoo.
That's Walter. ...
Yeah.
Walter. That's how I feel. Mike's a good listener, but it was just one of those questions I was kind of like trying to understand where his path of thinking was. But either way, I don't know. I think what the Tigers need to do is what they're doing right now. It's essentially just trying out what they have right now with the Victor Reyes of the world right now, who hit a 400-foot bomb, which I never thought I'd say in a million years. But there's some in a small sample size, has been getting better, and just finish the season on a high note. I mean, Toledo, the AAA team, won the Midwest Championship this season. So congratulations to them. But it's a veteran team that has the guys of Christian Stewart, who we may not see next year. Adrian Rodriguez. It's good to see Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green get a chance of it, but if we're being realistic about it right now, there's still there's some ways to go with the minor league system, but it's getting better. David Littlefield is no longer responsible, so thank the Lord for that. But again, leave him a little good. He's a good dude. And I keep dropping my mic, but yeah, he's a good dude. I bet the guy. But at any rate, I digress. So, Chrystal, what do you have going on? This is the time of show we kind of let you talk about what you have going on. Any new articles coming out? What do you have in the works?
Well, I always do stats. My schedule is pretty full. I'm just looking at it. There are about 6 or 7 of them left this month I've signed up for. And then I hit some writer's block thinking creatively. I did get the underrated White Sox article just yesterday. So if you're interested, go look at it.
We'll post that link in our podcast description.
Thank you, Janice, for always being my hype woman and retweeting it. We try to do that for each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's nothing I'd rather do but uplift the work of my friends. So.
Yes. So we try to uplift each other. And I think we will probably do some more estrogen power hours soon.
Yeah, we have recorded an EPH in a while.
Yeah,
there hasn't. Yeah, we typically record after someone is incredibly just awful to us online. I mean, I don't want
guys from Forbes.
I don't want that to be the precedent, though. I don't want us to record like whenever just like, dudes or guys are not being dudes, like guys just being guys. Like we also want to just record when good things happen.
Yeah.
Like say maybe an impending clinch, or I'm trying to think of like Yasmani Grandal existing. Just happy things like that.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll have a special guest. I don't want to name drop until it's completely confirmed, but hopefully we can record soon with a special female guest. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not even sure who the guest
They're going to be on the
so-
south side this month as they get close to as they get into the playoffs. I mean, how much is the shameless crowd going to embrace that team?
I have to be honest with you. I have never seen an episode of Shameless.
I had to get a reference there. It's a great show.
Listen,
I've never seen it either.
I mean, I get the reference, though. I totally know what you're talking about. But
They will all be, if Shameless was still on, I missed that show already, they would all be marching down to Sox Park, because all I can think about is the episode where the power went out and they were pissed because they couldn't watch the Sox, but the Cubs had power.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to march all the way to the north side. And that was one of the greatest episodes. But I think they would all be so happy. I don't want to spoil anything, but RIP to the one character who'd be the most excited. But Lip for sure. He'd be pumped.
Yes. I like it. I had to work the reference in. That was one of my favorite binge shows of the quarantine era was Shameless. So
I watched the first two seasons, and then I haven't had a chance to pick it back up again. But I was curious if you guys had the Estrogen Power Hour podcast because of what I witnessed last week, which was a murder of a certain writer who may write for Forbes or not. But I just thought it was one of those tweets where I'm like, why, dude? Why are you? Why? I didn't understand it. And then Crystal's your response was. I don't get it. Like, just dude, stay in your lane, man. Just stop.
We face that stuff constantly. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, we have a group chat, the four of us, of Estrogen Power Hour, and it's just constantly sharing really stupid tweets so that we can all just go and like jump in on this person.
I saw a tweet on Twitter saying that like if you're an account with over 400, 500 followers, someone is currently making fun of you in a group chat.
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't make fun of anyone. Like, we only make fun of assholes. Let's make that clear there.
You have to be really stupid for us to like point it out. But yeah, I hate just the misogyny that comes from that app. So yeah, I felt like roasting him for sure. And he follows me. So he saw my response, but he had to have muted that entire thread because he was so annoyed. And then he like tripled down on it. I was like, no, I'm going to use a filter if I want friends. Sorry.
I don't. Yeah, I just was looking at that going.
Well, that's. I think.
Okay.
But Raj Rogelio, he's always been good at like keeping his ear to the street. He finds good people to talk to. That's he hooked up with you, Janice, and brought us. So I followed you, and then I saw. I think it was like a month or two ago. There was some random asshole dude who was like, he got caught in the hornet's nest, and I loved the way all you guys were like coming at him from different angles. And I was like, so I'm gonna have to follow all these ladies now. And no, I think like it's good. Like I just kind of keep to myself on Twitter. I'll occasionally tweet something stupid about baseball, but I don't know. I try to. Yeah, when something like that happens, I try to follow the people who I agree with, and then just mute the people I don't, and it makes it a more pleasant experience overall, I think. So
you're absolutely right. Yeah. I think definitely just muting all the jerks and following all the people who aren't jerks has made my Twitter experience just so much better.
I mean, for myself, I don't want to come across as a quote unquote, and I've been called this all my life, the angry minority guy, because I'm always like yelling and.
I'm sorry I called you that, Roger.
No. I'm highly offended by that. No, but because I'm passionate and I do raise my voice because it's just a natural thing. I keep my mouth shut a lot because also my day job too. But at the same time, it's just like just in the moment too that I experienced some sort of asshole comment on one of her blogs or something like that too. I get the same thing. We got into it with some guy last week about it, and I'm just Twitter's a toxic app that sometimes you just have to step away from and just go, all right, you know what? I'm gonna go watch the game live and not tweet about it and just chill and have like tomorrow. Chris and I are going to Toledo to watch Smith Torkelson again, as you know. But anyway, I digress. Janice, what do you got going on? What do you want to pimp out?
So I'm actually working on an article right now. It's my daily Thursday article. I put out an article for NBC every Thursday, which basically just wraps up the day, strongest hitters of the day, strongest pitchers of the day. I also just make a fantasy pickup recommendation as well. I also look forward to tomorrow's pitching matchups. A little bit of a spoiler alert. I honestly think all the pitching matchups for tomorrow are not that great. So I picked at least the one that I thought was a little more, I guess, appealing just from a step back. It was basically based on more name recognition than anything. But the main gist of the article is I always have to come up with some sort of headline story. So tonight, I think I'm probably going to lean and just write about Bryce Harper for tonight because it looks like he had a really fantastic game this evening, and apparently he's been tearing the cover off the ball lately. So I will kind of do a little bit of a dive on that. That usually comes out even within the next hour and a half. So as soon as I log off with you fantastic people, I'm just going to tie that all together and put a bow on this article and send it off to NBC. But other than that, I will probably have some stuff coming out for South Side Sox just over the next couple of weeks. I actually have not written for them for a while, just mainly because my head has been so deep in NBC stuff. So I also have my Week That Was article coming out on Sunday, which is basically a nice wrap-up of the entire week of baseball. And I keep forgetting how little baseball, or at least regular season baseball, we have left. And I'm just being like, oh man, I'm going to have to just think about the entire month or think about the entire year. It's a lot to think about. It's definitely a lot to assess and a lot to kind of plan out. But anyway, I always think that I am way less busy than I actually am. Apparently, I'm very busy. And here I am thinking I'm going to write something for South Side Sox. I promise I will. I really want to. But anyway, that's what I've got going on. But.
By the way, I thoroughly enjoy the Northside Sox podcast, which you guys had the hot ones.
I did that too. Oh my god!
I wanted to pimp that out. I don't mean to steal your thunder about that, Janice, but I did listen to that episode because I'm a big fan of that show.
Oh yeah.
So first and foremost, if you get a chance, if you go to the Northside Pod on Twitter, it's pinned on the top of the profile. But that was an episode that I actually went on my way. I've already subscribed to you guys on Spotify, so but I went to go check it out, and yeah, that's some good stuff. I mean, Hot Ones is a good show. I love the concept of it all. The fact that he could still stay calm during all that and like the eye of the storm. It's like, man, I'm just like, I'd be drinking milk and drinking anything to cool off my mouth. And he's just like streamlining. He's such a great interviewer.
He really is. And I have to admit that having him on my show was a little unnerving, just mainly because I know of how great of an interviewer he is. And like he's interviewed just like a large breadth of celebrities. And like me, I've only been podcasting for about a little over a year now. And so I don't think my interviewing skills are all that great. So I definitely needed to lock it in and just make sure I didn't make a total fool out of myself over this local celebrity. Well, he's not local, but he is like from the Chicago area. But as soon as Sam, my podcast partner, told me that he was going to get Chris Evans on the show, I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely just floored by it. But yeah, we've had some pretty great guests over the years. I'm talking as if we've had. It feels like years. It really does feel like years. We had DJ Gladney. He's a prospect in the White Sox organization. We had Justice De Los Santos, who's an MLB writer, just last week.
That was a really good one too.
Yeah, we always try to find like interesting, cool folks to talk to. Sarah Sanchez actually came on our pod not too long ago as well to kind of break down the Crosstown Classic. But yeah, we always look for like fresh perspectives, diverse voices. Yeah, and we just don't talk about baseball too. We also talk about social issues and like the things that affect us outside of baseball as well. So it's been really fun running that show with Sam. He's a cool dude to podcast with.
Who did the Chris Penn tweet? Because I want to give kudos to the Chris Penn tweet, because anybody that makes obscure pop culture references is in. We talked about this before, Janice, but who made the Chris Penn Reservoir Dogs tweet? Was that him?
I think it was him. That sounds like a very Sam thing to say.
That was well done. That was well done, because Chris Penn is one of those character actors that doesn't get enough credit throughout the 80s. There's a movie when Madonna did the Live the what was that song? Hope to Tell, or it's Sean Penn. I think Chris Penn's in it too, and Christopher Walken. And Madonna does the main song for the soundtrack, and I can't remember the name for the life of me right now. But anyway, 80s obscure references. Chris Penn. Get back to it. So
it's been 15 years since he died.
I know. I can't believe he's dead. Yeah. Anyway,
Gone too soon.
Okay, I don't want to end the show on a bummer, but anyway. So on that note,
death.
No, but honestly, if you want some good fantasy advice, go to Janice's Twitter and I just had it, but I was looking at the Northside podcast. I'm gonna butcher this. I'm gonna say this. I'm just gonna spell it out. SEURIIOSA.
Yeah, it's essentially my last name, but just misspelled. Yeah, so Scurriosa is essentially how I pronounce it. But essentially like Scurriosa with 2 I's, because Scurriosa with 1 eye was taken. So.
And then if you want to follow Chrystal on Twitter, it's at Chrystal CHRYSTAL _OK. Again, I don't know why is it so weird when you spell things out and you sound like, I don't know why I always sound like an idiot when I spell things out. But anyway, so yeah, find all her work also at Sports Illustrated as well. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to the postseason. As we want, and selfishly, I just want the White Sox. Now, I just don't want this whole AL East love fest, New York and Boston, and I don't want to hear all that. I want Chicago to rise up and hopefully win. So
that means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Not real.
It's a lot of fun for you. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, you guys, like I said, White Sox Twitter to me is one of the most interesting and funniest accounts out there. It's a lot of fun, and they'll call you on your bullshit. So that I definitely appreciate that. So thanks again.
Thanks, y'all.